I sit sprawled in the overstuffed easy chair that compresses roughly half of the furniture in the small area designed for it as a living room in my apartment. Aside from the threadbare, secondhand patchwork rug covering most of the floor with only other piece that is squat table supporting my television, which currently stares hollowly back at me through its black empty screen. I have been home for 2 hours. I am unbelievably drunk. I drop the bottle from my hand to join its relatives on the floor. From the look of the sightings, it's a family reunion. Attendance is high. People get drunk for lots of different reasons. Some people think they become the life of the party when they're wasted. Others want to fit in with a particular crowd. Some, like me, drink because of the muddling effect of the alcohol occasionally dulls the pain, particularly the traumatic events or memories. The lucky ones are actually able to use it to forget it. I never had that option. God, I wish I could forget. I want to forget. For me, the alcohol only takes the edge of the memories. Sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't even do that. The buzz of just some sort gives me something else to focus on. But like tonight, if my thoughts happen to turn to that time, to that place, to that thing, I shuddered involuntarily. God, there's so much blood, so much pain, so much screams, so many. I lurched up into the chair and run, staggering to the bathroom, flinging myself at the toilet. I barely make it before the invisible amount of alcohol forcibly removed itself twice. I stay haunched, clinging weakly to the bowl. All hail the porcelain god. Sometime later, satisfied, I have finished reaching for that moment. I return to the living room, stopping by the fridge to grab another beer along the way. I just threw up a bunch of alcohol. Needed to keep up the pace if I didn't want to start sobering up. I settled back into my chair. As always, despite my best efforts, I have a perfect recollection of the evening's events. After my encounter with the unworldly thing disguised as an old man on the train, I frantically searched for the car for any sign that it was still there, or where it might have gone, or how it got there. I went over to the length of the train car for a second time, replaying the sequence of the events yet again, trying to convince myself that the whole thing was just a damn dream. That I'm not crazy. When the Overbrook stopped arrived, I picked up my valet and exited the train. The Glock still held my right hand and concealed into my coat pocket. From that point, I think my brain shut down for a little while. I remember the walk home, but it's like looking it through like a fin of gauze or underwear. The motions of them slower. It takes them longer. Fog, it's still crowded around me, but hardly notice any lack of vision of sinuous creeping provided. I have walked the path 100 times. My legs worked on the autopilot. I was about to a block away from my apartment when the man spoke to me. "Hey man, that's a nice coat." I turned around towards the voice, unaware but not aware. I could feel my body move, like a puppet on strings pulled by someone else. I dimly comprehended the two men facing me under the muted glow of the streetlight. Barely more than the boys, really. In a different world, I might have taught them history. God knows what circumstances forced them outside on a night like this. Doesn't it really matter? One stood around 6'2", and the other one a bit shorter, each dressed in current urban fashion. Their clothes loose and baggy, both had bloodshot, sick-looking eyes, and built entirely too skinny to immortalities. The small part of my mind still acknowledged my surroundings registered. that these two were extremely dangerous. You freaking stupid or something, man? What's that freaking looking you're giving me, man? Yo, too, I think our boy might be tripping or slump. Think you might be right there, Dre. Look at the somebody beat the shit out of some fool already. You trippin', bitch? Awfully nice freaking coat to be trippin'. You must be best that you get over here. The smaller of the two cautiously approached me from the side. Ari as I was a sleeping dog that might suddenly awake and decide to snap at his hand. In that way, I suppose. I stood still, dully looking ahead. I felt a slight pinch from the marks on my shoulder. The one called Dre gave me a look. Hey, Dio. What's you got in the bag, man? Think he's got some bills in there, man? Let's see what you do in the bag, man. See if you got some money on you. Tio started to remove the wallet strapped from my shoulder. A moment later, he was sitting down on the ground, hand clamped over his mouth, blood seeping through his fingers. One of his teeth lay next to him with the wet pavement. I stared at him in surprise, looking down at my hand, knuckles bleeding. I realized I had hit him. The hell, man? What the hell? Tio's face was vivid. Dre hauled with laughter behind him. Yo, Tio, that man bitch popped you good. Right, ya frickin' hole. Ha ha ha. Tio wiped his lips with the back of his hand and spat, another tooth flying from his mouth. His face was set in the hard expression. Gonna be the last thing he does, man. Tio's speech sounded off as he tried to walk around the two missing teeth. He pulled out a knife from his pocket and flicked it open, the street light catching the small hard blade. Think you're funny, huh? Think you're gonna hit me like ain't nothing happened? You're frickin' wrong, man. You're dead frickin' wrong. His lunge was wild, sloppy, but will still do serious damage if I had been connected. Seeing that it was through the slow motion fog that my mind was currently operating in, I had all the time in the world to sidestep. Catching his arm, looking at the knife, and tightly gripping his wrist with all my right hand. I drew back my left and dove my pain against his elbow, hard, simultaneously jerking his wrist towards me. With a sickening snap, Tio's arm bent the wrong way against the joint, the knife clattering to the ground as he screamed. Ah! My freaking god! Oh god, my arm, frick! Broken, goddamn! I let him go as he crumpled onto the ground, curling up into a fetal position. He cried, cradling his broken arm. Oh god, it hurts! It hurts! It hurts! Oh god! Oh god! Dio! Dre's expression was one of open shock. Apparently, this was the first time of any of their victims had been ever resisted. You crazy son of a bitch! You shouldn't have fricked with my money, man! You just bought yourself a one-way ticket to hell! I bent down and picked up the knife, folded into my coat, and stood straight, hands in my pockets, and my face practically unaware of the whimpering heap at my feet. Dre lifted his sweatshirt and saw the large .45 caliber handgun stuffed into his pants line. I'm gonna make you scream, bitch. Gonna make you bleed. He reached for the gun. Emotionless, I pulled out my Glock from my pocket and shot him. I'm always surprising to see how loud gunshots in my area are. In shot-outs on television, the characters have lengthy conversations punctuated by witty quips while firing gigantic machine guns. Explosions going off all around them. In real life, a gunshot incredibly loud, harsh thing. When bullets are flying, the last thing everyone thinks of is the blank banter. In this case, it took a second for me to regain hearing enough to recognize Dre's unarticulated cries over the ringing in my ears. His pistol lay next to him on the ground where he fearfully thrashed, shocked at the gaping hole that had. As if by magic, he suddenly appeared on his shoulder. I calmly stepped over and kicked the gun away, sending it skittering across the street. I stood over the wounded man frowning. Just because the things didn't work out for them tonight doesn't mean a thing. Next time it might be someone else that they try to mug. Next time it might be Billy Parr. A bright flash of rage flared up inside me. It must have shone in my eyes. Dre's cries quiet to soft, helpless whimpers. I pressed the barrel of my Glock to his cheek and roughly gripped his wound shoulder painfully, hauling him to a standing position. Should I kill him? It would be justified as self-defense. Already tonight I have seen that there are monsters in the world. I am powerless to do anything about it. Should I have taken care of the ones I can? Dre's eyes went wild. He began pleading. But please, man, don't kill me, man. We aren't gonna do nothing. Please, man, I'm sorry, please. Oh God, don't kill me. He started to cry uncontrollably, the harsh metal of my barrel still digging into the side of his face. I smelled his bowels empty themselves. Tio silently watched from where it lay terrified on the ground, his broken arm bent unnaturally. Fear plastered all across his bleeding face. My finger tightened on the trigger. Suddenly a sharp flare of pain emanated from my shoulder, wiping away the fog that had just clouding my mind. As if it was veil lifted for the first time, I observed the situation with the perfect clarity. I saw the hurt, frightened boy in my grasp, hysterical breaths coming from short gasps. I saw myself that I must look into them, a wrecked, half-crazed madman with a gun. My God, what am I doing? Dre grimaced as I dug my thumb into the bullet hole and cleaned the clothes, taking Hal low to his ear. You and your friend go to a hospital. Stay out of my neighborhood. If I see you again, you'll consider this a pleasant memory. I let him go, and he bonelessly fell to the ground with a cry of pain. Tio managed to get enough control of himself to help Dre to his feet again. I numbly watched the two men stumble off blindly into the fog in the general direction of the hospital. Horrified of what I had almost done, I looked down at my gun, still gripped in my hand, and shuddered. I reholstered my weapon, picked it up the single piece of the expended brass from the pavement and put it into my pocket. The rest of the walk home was uneventful. I took my time, knowing that the frequency of the gunshots and gang violence in this neighborhood would not hurry up police presence. I couldn't stop shaking. I finally reached my building, opened the front door with my attendant's key, and walked down into the hall of my door. Moving like an automation, I unlocked the three deadbolts with the succession, heaved open my slab of door, stepped inside the disarmed security system. I dropped my valet by the door and painfully shrugged out of the pea of coat, and then attached too much unwanted attention on my walk home. Hanging on it by the hook of my door, I moved through the small living room towards the bathroom attached to my bedroom, briefly making a sidestep to grab the first of what ultimately be the first beers from my kitchen. I finally heard approaching police sirens in the distance. Not that I had anything to worry about. The fog was thick and enough that all of our features would be sufficiently protected from any potential witnesses. I stripped, tossed the gun to the holster to the nightstand on my bed. I examined my shirt. A dark smear of blood from oozing mark had soaked through my shoulder. I checked over my wound and confirmed the initial assessments. The scalp was ugly, but couldn't require stitches. The lump above my eye wouldn't win me so many beauty pageants. But once the swelling went down would be fine. I may even took a look at the normal time the classes resumed after Thanksgiving weekend, next week. All my other scratches and cuts were superficial, although through the itching as they heal will be considerably uncomfortable. Most curiously, the mark on my shoulder had reverted to looking like it always had. Dead pink scar tissue. Without the stain on my shirt as testimony, I would be inclined to believe that I had imagined it bleeding later. Even though I had just showed before my escape from the school, enduring the events that left me with decidedly unclean feeling. The frigid warm roar of the water from the shower had blissfully welcome. I stood there for long minutes, taking in deep pulls from my drink, toweling off, redressing, and about 15 beers later, find me in my current position, slouched into my armchair, drunk as hell. As I sit staring into space and contemplating the pros and cons of another drink, a sharp free rap tissues at the door and caused me to hurry lurch to my feet. Shit, shit, shit! Did that thing follow me? Gotta get a gun. No, think logically. It couldn't be knocking. Maybe someone saw earlier the attack? Friends of Tio and Dre, maybe? Gotta get a gun. No, wait. Could be the police confiscating the area? But they've never done that before. Even with the murder of a couple of months ago. Still, if it's the cops, I shouldn't answer the door armed. What the hell was going on?